Hello and welcome. I am Sylvia Hartmann, the creator of Modern Energy, and this is a current topical episode of The Energy Perspective. I came across this interesting article uh, today for a recent study that had some interesting findings. And after decades of study, there remains no clear evidence that serotonin levels or serotonin activity are responsible for depression, according to a major review of prior research led by UCL scientists. Lead author Joanna Moncrieff, a professor of psychiatry at UCL and consultant psychiatrist at North East London NHS Foundation Trust, said, "It is always difficult to prove a negative, but I think we can safely say that after a vast amount of research conducted over several decades, there is no convincing evidence that depression is caused by serotonin abnormalities, particularly by lower levels or reduced activity of serotonin. The popularity of the chemical imbalance theory of depression has coincided with a huge increase in the use of antidepressants. Prescriptions for antidepressants have risen dramatically since the 1990s, with 1 in 6 adults in England and 2% of teenagers now being prescribed an antidepressant in a given year. Many people take antidepressants because they have been led to believe their depression has a biochemical cause. But this new research suggests this belief is not grounded in evidence. So I thought that was really interesting. Let us talk a little bit about what we've got going on here again. We have a problem with the mind-body duality. We would love to find a nice practical thing that will solve our emotion problems, our problems in our states of being. And this whole thing with depression, and depression being a mental illness that has a virus or a cause somewhere, is this is where the mind-body duality is locked in the eternal battle, which it cannot win. It cannot win that because human beings are not a mind-body duality. Anybody who has ever gone anywhere might have even seen that many people refer to the human people as a mind, body, spirit triad. If you're only investigating 2 out of the 3, you're never going to get anywhere. It's like having 3 horses that are supposed to pull a cart, and one of them is dead. And the other 2 are trying to drag it along, and the people who are trying to find out why the cart isn't working, why it isn't moving forward, are only ever investigating 2 horses, completely ignoring the third one and its state of beings. So when I say the energy perspective, that means we're looking at this depression situation 3 ways: mind, body, and spirit. So I looked up the signs and symptoms of depression according to the British NHS. And the very first thing I see here is here at the top. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention has recognized that having certain mental disorders, including depression and schizophrenia, can make people more likely to get severely ill from COVID-19. Now, how on earth does that belong together? This is completely inexplicable in the mind-body duality system, how this could possibly be the case. Dearie me. So, symptoms of depression: persistently sad, anxious, or empty moods, feeling of hopelessness and pessimism, feelings of irritability, frustration, or restlessness. And here's our first first of our many, many, many problems. Irritability and depression are two different things. They are two different states of being. And I think I'm going to be calling up here so that we can take a look at this, our modern energy chart for a moment. So here we have the modern energy chart, and this is really quite important in the greater scheme of things here. That if you have a look at our little purple man here at -5, right? This is where you get anxiety. Anxiety and high anxiety, panic attacks, that's the sort of thing we're dealing with here. And irritability and aggression, that is where in between these two here. This is -5, -6, and a real temper tantrum, real panic attack, a real physical attack on other people, anger tantrums. That's the number, -7, outburst there. But then we have depression, which is a totally different thing. It's at -8. The person is lying literally on their knees with their heads in their hand. Depression is a different thing than anxiety or irritability. The best way I can explain this is not by thousands of studies and statistics, but anybody who's ever cared for animals, for example. Animals can get very depressed. They can get depressed when their owner dies or leaves, when a companion pet dies or leaves, when they get ill. And you know exactly what a depressed animal, a horse, a cat, a dog, how they presents with their symptoms. They have no energy. That's really the most important thing about it, is that they have no energy. They have no longer energy to be racing in the mind, to have panic attacks, to freak out and get irritable. Depression is the absence of energy. The absence of energy to the point that a creature and a being afflicted by this can't even get out of their nest. They can't even get up. They don't want to eat. They don't want to drink. They don't respond to stimuli in the environment anymore. Depression is one thing, and anxiety and irritability is a completely different thing. However, a human being isn't just one thing. They're not just one thing. People move up and down on the energy chart all the time, and that's the living energy body, its conditions, how it is reacting, our third horse in front of the cart. And how it reacts, how it behaves, the energy body, affects the other two profoundly, absolutely profoundly. For example, when there is no energy in the system, and we are looking at here our -8, -9 states of depression, there is also no energy to power the immune system. And that is why the people who then when they're depressed and then they get ill, their illness is much worse. It takes much longer. It has worse symptoms than a person who is just higher on the energy chart and whose entire life energy systems are working better and which are helping the body. They are uplifting the body. They are powering the body. And there your appetite comes back and your joy for life comes back. And what we find, so that the people that are on that list with the clinical depression and these symptoms, they are going also moving on the energy chart. They're going up and down. However, as far as I'm concerned, depression only occurs when the person no longer can actually spool themselves back up again. And I think what happens here with a lot of the people who go and seek help is that they spool up a little bit again, up to, say, the point where they're just scared and anxious all the time. And they can't make their way up even to a neutral place or into the positive sides of the energy chart. And of course, none of this you can address with serotonin pills, or even with this old-fashioned trauma-based psychotherapy talking. None of this can be addressed with that. But the reason that I'm really here, and what I really want to tell the other guys out there is what you need to do in order to find any kind of real physical reasons for depression. Some kind of real physical thing, like some kind of true imbalance or some genetic disorder or something like that. The only way you will find that if you deal with people who really are depressed as an illness, and not just everyone who is just highly stressed. Because at the moment, what's happening is that all these people who are highly stressed are being lumped into this category of depression as a mental illness. And they're not mentally ill, they're just super stressed and are showing the completely normal reaction that any dog, cat, horse, dolphin, monkey, human being would have if they were getting too stressed. This is so what we need to do here, right? What we need to do here is we need to take this enormous bucket, this ocean of so-called depressed people, and start de-stressing them, all of them, engaging them in modern stress management, and actually teaching them some methods that will empower their energy bodies. They are directly designed to empower their energy bodies so they start functioning better, so that they support the immune system better. So people get to be a little bit more in control of their own lives. Because on my little chart here, what happens is that if you get too low on it, if you get below -4, you lose control of your ability to control your own states with your mind. I liken that to being on a river that's running towards a waterfall. There is a point in that river where you can still, if you swim really hard, you can make it to the shore. You can get safe. But if you miss that point, you just lose control. And no matter how much you flail and thrash, you're going to go down that river and down, as here, down the energy chart, coming down this river, and it runs out of control. Now we have anxiety, freak out, total panic, terror, then this total freak out there, this explosion at -7, where the energy body is throwing its last reserves into the fray, trying to somehow get out of it, like a zebra fights in the jaws of a lion, last-ditch attempt, throw everything you got at it. And then following that, we got the depression state here, because the energy system has given everything it had to give. And depending on how bad this nervous breakdown here, that's such a good term. We should still have those terms that make sense to human beings. After the nervous breakdown, depending on how severe it was, how long will it take for this poor person here to spool back up to a better state of being, for the energy system to recover? Now, in order for any energy system to recover, the last thing you need is psychotherapy that is trauma-based. That's the last thing you need, is to say to this person, you know, oh, the reason that you're so stressed in the first place and so anxious is because of your childhood trauma. Now let's talk about when Uncle Bob raped you as a 5-year-old. That is the last thing a person with a completely depleted energy system needs. What they need is obviously positive energy. They need to be, there needs to be a person there who's giving them attention, who is giving them love, who is giving them hope, who is giving them energy, positive energy. And if we're directing their thoughts in any direction at all, we need to direct their thoughts into direction of something positive. And this is where Star Matrix comes in. and to remind people of the best moments of their lives, to remind them of good memories, to build pathways in the brain towards good memories. That is long-term a lifesaver. And a lifesaver, an incarnational saver in every which way you might want to consider that. So what I was saying was that what we need to do is we need to take out all the people who are just stressed from this multitude of people who've been diagnosed with depression. Once we have all the ones that are actually not clinically ill at all, but just suffering from the aftermath of untreated chronic stress in the energy system, once they are out of that population and they're on their modern stress management programs, please notice they do not require the taking of any expensive pills. And this is the reason why this is not known and isn't popular and in fact actively suppressed. Once these are out of that giant population, we are left with some people who might not be just stressed. Now we have a population that we can send to the doctors and have their blood drawn and have their brains scanned. And we can expect to see some similarities in this massively refined, reduced sample of the population. And that gives us a way forward to help everyone, including the people that where it wasn't an energy problem and there's really something wrong with them. And all the people where there was never anything really wrong with them, they just reacted in a perfectly logical, structural way, like all mammals do at least. And they went through some chronic stress, they had a nervous breakdown, and they ended up in very low energy states, which were then not treated properly, which were not acknowledged properly, which were not handled properly at all. So there's hope for both groups. We need to urgently get back with the mind, body, spirit triad. The horrible locked cycle of there being just the mind-body duality cannot give us the research we need. It cannot give us the outcomes we need. It cannot give us the methods we need to actually make some progress here, personally, individually, and societally as well. What it can do, however, this locked mind-body duality where things are pinging back and forth between the two and never get resolved, is it makes an awful lot of money on prescribing medications and creating a population that stays sick forever. I do believe there needs to be an end to that. We need to start being reasonable and rational. It is completely unreasonable to deal with human beings as simply a mind-body duality. And that has come to an end, and I needed to say that today. So thank you very much for listening. If you are suffering from depression and you have been diagnosed with depression, try some modern stress management, try some modern energy techniques. I have lots and lots of examples on my channel that you can try out for yourself and think about it, compare what I'm saying to your actual lived experiences and see if what I'm saying actually makes sense. And if you do, please tell other people. There needs to be an end to this mind-body duality. It cannot succeed other than making some possibly very evil people extremely rich. And that's just not good enough, in my opinion. Thank you very much for listening. That was my thought of the day from the energy perspective. And yeah, it seems low levels of serotonin and serotonin-based pills are not the answer to depression. Cheer up, look up, be bright. You can feel better, whoever you are, whoever you're watching. And if you're already feeling good, you can feel better still. Let's go for the +10, guys. Let's go over here for the +10. Try and live our lives at +10. Lots of love. Bye for now. Before you go, please be sure to download my free illustrated book on all things modern energy called The Energy Revolution. It has lots and lots of cool information that you might find super helpful. If you're not much of a reader, or you're not interested in theory, or you would just like to get started with something practical right away, we also have the 7 tips for happiness for you, completely free, and you can share that with anyone you like. It contains a modern energy chart. It's really short, and it will really help you get started on developing your own personal modern stress management and simply make you feel better. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.